Gojo's death was an event that rattled the whole Jujutsu Kaisen fanbase. Many fans felt betrayed and disappointed. Till this day, people debate over the ending of this fight and how it was a bad decision narratively. Many arguing that the result of the fight didn't make sense with what was happening. People thought Gege was contradicting himself and so on. But I think there's a deeper reason for why Gojo got the ending he got, and I haven't seen many people on YouTube talk about it. There's more to it than just saying that the chapters contradict themselves. It's a problem rooted within Gojo since his conception as a character, a problem that Gege never knew how to solve, leading to this ending that left a big decline on Jujutsu Kaisen. In today's video, I will reveal to you guys the truth of Gege's decision to end Satoru Gojo. If you guys are interested in stuff like this, make sure to like and subscribe since I will be doing a lot more content like this. You guys will be eating good. From the very first moment we encounter Gojo, he is introduced as the strongest sorcerer, consistently stated as such. However, like in many other shonen manga, there is a rival, and for Gojo, that rival is Sukuna. Sukuna is posed as the only being capable of challenging Gojo, creating a narrative tension that we, as the audience, anticipate. The battle between these two becomes a focal point of the series, promising a showdown between the strongest sorcerers. Gojo embodies the concept of the strongest in a way that serves both the narrative and the audience's expectations. Whenever a problem arises, the presence of Gojo offers immediate reassurance. As long as he's around, the conflict will be resolved. For example, when Hanami and Jogo infiltrate Jujutsu High, Gojo's entrance immediately signals the end of their threat. This scenario plays out repeatedly, and Gojo's strength becomes a crutch for the story, with every other problem essentially being solved by his intervention. This in turn makes it difficult for the other characters, like for example, Yuji and Yuta, to develop, as their growth is being stunned by Gojo's presence. Furthermore, the story itself struggles to progress when the strongest character can effortlessly resolve every conflict. At this stage of the narrative, the biggest threat to the main characters is Kenjaku, who for hundreds of years has been consistently defeated by Six Eyes users like Gojo. From Gege Akutami's perspective, writing a character like Gojo presents a significant challenge. With Gojo being the most powerful sorcerer in the story, there's always the problem that he could simply solve every conflict, leaving the rest of the cast in his shadow and stalling the plot's natural progression. This is where Gege just started cooking like crazy and made a beautiful story decision. He sealed Gojo away. And this was not just for the sake of simplifying the plot, but also to create an emotional and narrative payoff. The most obvious reason for sealing Gojo was to prevent him from constantly solving all of the problems that arose. But this decision also allowed Gege to go deeper into one of the best backstories in all of shonen, Hidden Inventory. We explore the profound connection between Gojo and Geto. Both characters are bound by their shared experience of being the strongest, a bound that allows them to understand each other in ways no one else can. However, Geto's descent into darkness and eventual demise at the hands of his closest friend adds tragic depth to their relationship. This backstory lays the groundwork for the emotional weight of Gojo's eventual sealing. Now this is where Gege's writing starts to stand out from the rest. Kenjaku, after centuries of listening to Six Eyes users, understands that Gojo cannot be beaten by conventional means. Gojo's strength made him the ultimate obstacle to Kenjaku's plans. So Kenjaku's strategy becomes clear. To defeat Gojo, he needs to disrupt Gojo's sense of security. And what better way to do that than by taking over his best friend's dead body? This act not only blindsides Gojo, who obviously never expected to see Geto again, but it also emotionally stuns him, leaving him vulnerable and allowing Kenjaku to seal him. The use of Kenjaku's technique in this moment is just perfect. His long history with the Six Eyes makes it apparent that he cannot defeat them head on, so he has to find a way to manipulate Gojo, to create a weakness, to make him vulnerable. By creating a scenario that draws Gojo in, Kenjaku ensures that Gojo's nature as the strongest sorcerer will lead to his own downfall. Gojo's reaction to Geto's reappearance, fueled by his emotional history with him, makes his sealing believable. It makes sense, it's consistent. The emotional and narrative payoff is smooth and seamless as everything builds towards this moment. Gege's ability to weave together Kenjaku's motives, Gojo's backstory, the connection between Gojo and Geto, and the necessity of removing Gojo for the plot's progression is a masterpiece. Individually, each story piece, Kenjaku's technique, his history with the Six Eyes users, Gojo's strength, and his relationship relationship with Geto could stand on its own, but when combined, they create a natural solution to the problem of how to deal with Gojo. The narrative that Gege constructed provides a satisfying, organic resolution, which is why Gojo's ceiling feels earned and justified within the story's context. This decision highlights Gege's skill in story building, and it sets the stage for deeper character development and plot progression without the overwhelming presence of the strongest sorcerer. This is how you should approach Gojo's character, but at some point, he needs to get unsealed because there are still things Gojo needs to fulfill. For example, his Sukuna fight. Here's where fans started noticing something with Gege, which is something that eventually led to a disaster. Fans were noticing that Gege literally just hated Gojo. He did not want anything to do with that guy. Mentioning things like, now that Gojo is gone, it's looking like 2020 is gonna be a good year. Which is probably him expressing his relief of sealing Gojo and not having to deal with the problem he posed when it came to his writing. The recent Jujutsu Kaisen chapters have been all about how many times did you say Satoru Gojo, which just keeps reinforcing the narrative that Gege was sick of dealing with Gojo's character. But this is exactly what led him to making that disastrous decision of off-screening Gojo. The decision to kill Gojo isn't inherently bad. If done correctly, it could have been a beautiful narrative moment, but Gege's execution of Gojo's death felt like it wasn't refined whatsoever, with several issues that undermine the moment's impact. To start, Gojo's dialogue after being hit by Sukuna's slice feels forced, as if Gege had written himself into a corner. First off, the claim that Sukuna didn't go all out is absurd. From the start of the series, Sukuna was fiending for the 10 Shadows technique to stand a chance against Gojo. While we could give the benefit of the doubt that this statement is just referring that Gojo knew Sukuna was hiding something, like his true form, but even then, Gojo's own statement that he doubted he could defeat Sukuna without 10 Shadows raises serious questions. This moment of self-doubt feels out of place, especially considering Gojo's previous confidence in his ability to defeat Prime Sukuna. Like when Yuji asked him, it was a picture of Heian era Sukuna. When Yuji asked him about this, Gojo essentially said it'd be difficult, but that he'd win. Yet during the fight, Gojo is not only holding his own, but actually outperforming Sukuna, even with Sukuna having more experience and an additional technique, which is actually the technique stated to equal Limitless. Despite that, Gojo's talent was clearly shining through, so the sudden self-doubt is jarring and inconsistent with everything we've seen from him. Gege's decision to off-screen Gojo to resolve the problem of him being too strong also leads to a major inconsistency. Sukuna's ability to land the World Slash made him just as powerful as Gojo, which in turn made the main cast's victory against him feel extremely forced and inconsistent, of course. The confusion gets even deeper at the Shinjuku showdown when Maki, someone who shares a sight similar to Maharaga's, is able to dodge Sukuna's slash. If Maki can do this, then it just follows that Gojo can too. With his 6 eyes, would have been more than capable of doing the same thing, because the common theme between their vision is being able to analyze and break down a technique. This shift in power dynamics, where Gojo was once the undeniable victor, only to suddenly be killed in a random, nonsensical way, feels like a rushed decision made by Gege to rid himself of a character that had become too difficult to write. The contradictions between Gojo's earlier confidence and then the sudden backtracking in his dialogue shows how forced this shift feels, leaving the audience with more questions than answers. The issue here isn't just Gojo's death, but the way Gege handled it, which makes it feel less like a natural progression and more like a reactive decision to deal with Gojo's overwhelming strength, which explains how Jujutsu Kaisen's favorite character got sabotaged. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. If you guys have any video ideas, make sure to drop them in the comments. And if I do your idea, you will be shouted out in that video. Thanks for watching.